The stars looked different today. Commander Kim Tae-ho noticed this as he sat in his command chair aboard the orbital defense station Aegis 7. The coffee in his cup was still warm, and the morning shift had just begun. Earth rotated slowly below them, showing the blue oceans and white clouds that every human took for granted. "Sir, we have something strange on the sensors," said Lieutenant Park So-min from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. "It's big and it's coming our way." Kim Tae-ho set down his coffee and walked over to look at her screen. The object was huge, much bigger than any Earth ship. It moved in a straight line toward their planet, not trying to hide at all. "How big?" he asked. "About 2 kilometers long," So-min replied. "And sir, it's sending a signal." Engineer Lee Dong-woo looked up from his repair work. He had been fixing a broken communication panel all morning. "What kind of signal?" "It's trying to talk to us," So-min said. "But the language is weird." Kim Tae-ho frowned. No Earth nation had ships that big, and the signal was unlike anything they had heard before. "Put it through the translation computer." "Let's see what it says." The speakers crackled with static. Then a voice came through, speaking slowly and carefully. The words were in perfect English, but something about the way they were said felt wrong. "Greetings, primitive inhabitants of the third planet," the voice said. "We are the Galactic Federation. We come in peace to offer you protection and guidance." The three humans looked at each other. Park So-min raised her eyebrows. Lee Dong-woo stopped working completely. "Primitive?" Kim Tae-ho repeated. The alien voice continued. "We understand that your species is young and weak. The galaxy is a dangerous place, full of threats you cannot imagine. We offer to help you grow and become safe." "They think we're weak?" Lee Dong-woo asked, looking confused. "Do not fear," the alien said. "We will teach you to make better tools and protect you from the many dangers of space. Your small planet seems peaceful, but there are terrible things among the stars." Kim Tae-ho pressed the communication button. "This is Commander Kim Tae-ho of Earth Defense Station Aegis 7. We welcome peaceful contact. Please identify yourselves." There was a pause. Then the alien voice came back, sounding surprised. "You have orbital stations. Our sensors showed only a simple world with basic technology." "Our sensors work fine, too," Kim Tae-ho replied. "We see your ship clearly. It's quite large." "Yes, we brought our biggest diplomatic vessel to make sure you feel safe," the alien said. "We know that primitive species can be frightened by advanced technology. We will land soon and begin the uplifting process." Park So-min muted their communication and turned to Kim Tae-ho. "Sir, what's uplifting?" "I think they want to help us become more advanced," he replied. "But they keep calling us primitive." Lee Dong-woo scratched his head. "Should we tell them about our nuclear weapons or our space program?" "Let's see what they have to say first," Kim Tae-ho decided. He opened the communication again. "We appreciate your offer of help. What kind of dangers are you talking about?" "Oh, there are so many," the alien said, sounding worried for them. "Pirates who steal resources, storms in space that can destroy whole planets, diseases that spread between worlds, wild animals on death planets where nothing should live." "Death planets?" Park So-min asked quietly. The alien heard her. "Yes, terrible worlds where the environment tries to kill everything. Worlds with poison air, dangerous weather, and deadly creatures. No thinking species could survive on such places." Kim Tae-ho looked out at Earth through the station window. He could see lightning flashing in storm clouds over the Pacific Ocean. A hurricane was forming near the Philippines. It looked like a normal day. "Our planet seems pretty safe to us," he said into the microphone. "Of course it does," the alien replied kindly. "You have never seen a real death world. Your peaceful planet is perfect for a young species. We will make sure nothing bad ever happens to you." Lee Dongwu started laughing quietly. Park So-min put her hand over her mouth to hide her smile. "What's so funny?" Kim Tae-ho whispered. "Sir, last week, a volcano erupted in Japan," So-min whispered back. "Yesterday there was an earthquake in California, and this morning the weather report said there might be tornadoes in Kansas. And that's just Tuesday," Lee Dongwu added. Kim Tae-ho thought about this. He remembered the briefing from last month about the asteroid that almost hit Earth, the one that their defense systems had to destroy. He thought about the hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, and forest fires that happened every year. He thought about the sharks in the ocean and the bears in the forests. Maybe Earth wasn't as peaceful as the aliens thought. "We would like to meet with you properly," Kim Tae-ho said into the microphone. "Should we prepare a landing area?" "That would be wonderful," the alien replied. "We will send down our most important diplomat, but please, do not be afraid of our technology. We know it must seem like magic to your simple minds." Kim Tae-ho almost smiled. Their simple minds had built orbital defense stations, nuclear power plants, and rockets that could reach other planets. But maybe it was better to let the aliens think what they wanted to think. "We'll try not to be too amazed," he said. "We are so excited to help you," the alien said. "Your species will learn so much. We will teach you about science and medicine and technology. Soon you will be safe from all the terrible things in the galaxy." After the communication ended, the three humans sat quietly for a moment. "They really think we're helpless," Park So-min said. "They have no idea what Earth is like," Lee Dongwu agreed. Kim Tae-ho stood up and walked back to his command chair. Outside the window, Earth continued its rotation. Lightning still flashed in the storm clouds. The hurricane was getting bigger. Somewhere below, people were going about their normal lives, dealing with all the things that the aliens thought would kill them. "Contact Earth Command," he said to Park So-min. "Tell them we have visitors coming, and tell them these visitors think we're weak and primitive." "Should I mention that they're here to protect us from dangerous planets?" she asked. Kim Tae-ho looked out at Earth again. Beautiful, deadly, unpredictable Earth, where humans had learned to survive everything the planet could throw at them. "Let's see how long it takes them to figure out the truth," he said. The alien ship moved closer to Earth, carrying beings who thought they were approaching a peaceful world full of helpless creatures. They had no idea they were about to meet the survivors of the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. The landing site at Andrews Air Force Base looked perfect. President Choi Yun-ji stood beside the red carpet with her security team, watching the alien ship descend. The vessel was beautiful, silver and smooth, making almost no sound as it settled. "Onto the ground. Remember, they think we're primitive," Defense Minister Park Hae-won whispered to her. "They're here to help us." President Choi nodded. "Let's see what kind of help they have in mind." The ship's door opened with a soft hiss. Three figures walked out, moving carefully like they were afraid of falling. They looked almost human, but taller and thinner, with pale blue skin and large eyes. The one in front wore robes that seemed to shift colors in the sunlight. "Greetings, young ones," the lead alien said, raising his hand in what looked like a peaceful gesture. "I am Ambassador Quindal of the Galactic Federation. We are honored to meet your species." "Welcome to Earth," President Choi replied. "I am President Choi Yun-ji. We're happy to have peaceful contact with your Federation. Ambassador Quindal looked surprised. President? Your species has organized government already? How wonderful! Most primitive species are still fighting with sticks and stones when we find them. Dr. Kang Min Soo, the chief medical officer, stepped forward. We've been organized for quite some time. Would you like to see our capital city? That would be educational, Quindal said, looking pleased. We love to see how young species develop. But please do not worry about impressing us. We understand that your technology is very simple. As they walked toward the waiting vehicles, one of the other aliens pointed at a jet fighter flying overhead. What is that noisy machine? That's one of our aircraft, Park Hae-won explained. It can fly faster than sound. The aliens stopped, walking and stared at each other. Faster than sound? Quindal asked, looking worried. But that would create terrible noise. Surely your people cannot survive such violence. Oh, we're used to loud noises, Dr. Kang said casually. We have thunder, storms all the time. Some of them are so loud they shake buildings. Thunderstorms, another alien whispered. On your planet? Sure, Dr. Kang continued. We get about 50,000 lightning strikes every day, sometimes more during storm season. The aliens looked at each other with wide eyes. 50,000? Quindal repeated slowly. Is that a lot? President Choi asked innocently. On our world, a single lightning strike would be declared a natural disaster, Quindal said quietly. They reached the cars, and the aliens stared at the vehicles with confusion. These machines burn fuel? One alien asked. These are the diplomatic cars, Park Hae-won explained. They're electric, actually. We try to be environmentally friendly. But we also have cars that burn gasoline, Dr. Kang added helpfully. And diesel trucks and motorcycles. People love motorcycles. You burn explosive liquids for transportation? Quindal asked, looking shocked. It's not really explosive unless you compress it and add a spark at just the right moment, President Choi said. It's perfectly safe. The ride to the White House was quiet. The aliens stared out the windows at the city around them. They seemed confused by the tall buildings and busy streets. So many of your people live close together, Quindal observed. Are they not afraid of disease spreading? We have good medicine, Dr. Kang replied. Most diseases that used to kill people are not a problem anymore. What kind of diseases? An alien asked. Oh, you know, the usual ones. Plague, smallpox, influenza, tuberculosis. Dr. Kang listed them like he was reading a grocery list. We've beaten most of them. Some we prevented with vaccines. Others we just learned to treat. You survived plague? Quindal asked in a small voice. Several times throughout history, Dr. Kang said cheerfully. Humans are pretty tough. When they arrived at the White House, the alien stared at the building with confusion. This is where your leader lives? Quindal asked. This is where I work, President Choi corrected. I live somewhere else. We separate work and home. But where are the defenses, the shields, the weapon systems? Park Hae-won pointed to the guards at the gates. We have security, but we don't need shields. Our people are generally peaceful. Generally peaceful? Quindal repeated. Well, we still have some conflicts here and there, President Choi admitted. But nothing major, just the usual disagreements between nations. You have multiple nations on one planet? An alien asked. About 200 countries, depending on how you count, Park Hae-won said, each with their own government and culture. The alien stopped walking again. 200 separate governments? Quindal asked faintly. Is that unusual? President Choi asked. Most species unite under one government before they develop advanced technology, Quindal explained. Having multiple governments usually leads to war. Oh, we've had wars, Dr. Kang said casually. Lots of them. But we learned to solve most problems with talking instead of fighting. How many wars? An alien whispered. Dr. Kang thought for a moment. I'd have to check the history books. Thousands, probably. Maybe tens of thousands, if you count all the small ones. The aliens looked like they might faint. Inside the White House, they sat down for refreshments. The staff brought coffee, tea, and pastries. Please, try our food, President Choi offered. Ambassador Quindal picked up a cup of coffee and sniffed it carefully. His expression changed to one of horror. This liquid contains a deadly stimulant, he said, setting the cup down. Quickly. That's caffeine, Dr. Kang explained. It helps people stay awake. Most humans drink it every day. Every day? Quindal asked, looking at his own people with alarm. You consume stimulants daily? Some people drink several cups, Park Hae-won added. I usually have 4 or 5 cups of coffee each morning. One of the aliens made a choking sound. What about this brown powder? Another alien asked, pointing at the cinnamon on a pastry. That's a spice, President Choi said. It makes food taste better. You add unknown chemicals to your food for pleasure? Quindal asked. We add lots of things, Dr. Kang said happily. Salt, pepper, garlic, chili peppers, herbs. Humans love flavor. Chili peppers? An alien repeated weakly. Sure, the hot ones are the best, Dr. Kang continued. Some people eat peppers so hot they make you sweat and cry. It's fun. The aliens stared at the humans like they were looking at dangerous wild animals. Perhaps, Quindal said carefully, we should discuss the protection services we can offer your species. What kind of protection? President Choi asked. Protection from the dangerous universe, Quindal explained. From radiation, hostile environments, toxic substances, extreme temperatures. President Choi looked at Park Hae-won, who was trying not to smile. That's very kind, she said. But we think we're doing okay so far. Ambassador Quindal looked around the room at the humans, who were calmly drinking their poison and eating their chemical-covered food while talking about surviving, diseases and wars. For the first time since landing, he began to wonder if they had made a mistake. The state dinner was meant to be a friendly gesture. President Choi had ordered the finest meal the White House kitchen could prepare. The dining room looked beautiful with flowers and candles. The aliens sat at the long table, looking nervous as human staff brought out plate after plate of food. We wanted to show you the best of human cooking, President Choi said with a smile. Please, try anything that looks interesting. Ambassador Quindal stared at his plate with concern. The food looked colorful and smelled strong. What is this? Red liquid? That's wine, General Nam Jae-sung explained from across the table. It's made from grapes that we let rot in a special way. You drink rotted fruit? An alien asked in horror. The fermentation process creates alcohol, Dr. Kang Min-soo added helpfully. It's perfectly safe. Humans have been drinking wine for thousands of years. Alcohol is a poison, Quindal said quietly. Well, yes, technically, Dr. Kang agreed, but only in large amounts. A little bit just makes people relaxed and happy. You willingly consume poison for pleasure? Another alien whispered. General Nam picked up his wine glass and took a drink. This is actually a mild wine. Some people prefer stronger alcohol. Whiskey, vodka, rum. Those are much more potent. The aliens watched in fascination and horror as the general drank what they considered deadly poison without any problems. "What about this brown liquid?" Quindal asked, pointing at his coffee cup. "That's coffee," Captain Osei-Jin said. "It's a stimulant drink. Helps people wake up in the morning." "You consume stimulants regularly?" "Most people do," Captain O replied. "I usually drink 6 cups of coffee during my morning workout." "You exercise while consuming stimulants?" an alien asked faintly. "Sure, it gives you energy," Captain O explained. "Speaking of which, I had a great workout this morning. Did 3 hours of weightlifting, then a 10-kilometer run, then some combat training." The aliens stared at him. Captain O was a large man with obvious muscles, but he spoke about his activities like they were normal. "How much weight did you lift?" Quindal asked carefully. "Not much today, just warming up," Captain O said modestly. "Only about twice my body weight. On good days, I can lift 3 times my weight." "You lift objects heavier than yourself?" an alien gasped. "That's pretty standard for human athletes," General Nam said. "Captain O here is strong, but not unusually so. We have people who can lift much more." "And you run 10 kilometers for fun?" another alien asked. "That's just a light jog," Captain O laughed. "Some people run marathons. That's over 40 kilometers without stopping." The aliens looked at each other with growing alarm. "Try the spicy noodles," Dr. Kang suggested, pointing to a Korean dish. "They're delicious." Ambassador Quindal carefully picked up a single noodle with his fork. He put it in his mouth and immediately began coughing and reaching for water. "Too spicy?" Dr. Kang asked with concern. "That food is full of chemicals that burn," Quindal gasped. "Those are chili peppers," President Choi explained. "They add flavor. Some people like food much spicier than this." "You eat burning chemicals for flavor?" an alien asked in disbelief. "It's not really burning," General Nam said. "It just feels hot. The chemicals trick your mouth into thinking it's being burned, but there's no real damage." "You eat things that make your body think it's being injured?" "Sure," Captain O said, helping himself to more of the spicy noodles. "Pain can be fun sometimes, like when you exercise really hard or go on roller coasters or watch scary movies." "You enjoy pain?" Quindal asked weakly. "Not real pain," Dr. Kang clarified. "Just controlled, safe pain. It releases chemicals in the brain that make you feel good." "Your brains reward you for experiencing pain?" "Human brains are complicated," Dr. Kang admitted. "We also get rewards for doing dangerous things like climbing mountains, jumping out of aircraft, or racing fast vehicles." One of the aliens made a small whimpering sound. "Speaking of climbing," General Nam said conversationally, "did you hear that Lee Dong-woo made it to the top of Mount Everest last month?" "Who is Lee Dong-woo?" Quindal asked. "He's the engineer from the space station," Captain O replied. "Nice guy. He climbs mountains as a hobby." "What is Mount Everest?" "The tallest mountain on Earth," President Choi said. "Very high altitude, very cold, very dangerous. People climb it for sport." "How dangerous?" an alien whispered. "Well, the air is so thin you need oxygen tanks to breathe," Dr. Kang explained. "The temperature can drop to minus 40 degrees. There are storms that can kill you, and if you fall, you die." "And people do this for fun?" "Thousands of people," General Nam confirmed. "Some people climb it multiple times." Ambassador Quindal put down his fork and stared at the humans around the table. They were calmly eating food that contained poison and chemicals that simulated injury, while discussing how they climbed deadly mountains and jumped out of flying vehicles for entertainment. "What is the most dangerous thing humans do for recreation?" he asked quietly. The humans looked at each other thoughtfully. "That's hard to say," Captain O mused. "Free-fall parachuting, deep-sea diving, racing cars at high speed? What about volcano surfing?" Dr. Kang suggested. "Or storm chasing?" "Volcano surfing?" Quindal repeated in a whisper. "Some people slide down the sides of active volcanoes on special boards," President Choi explained. "It's like skiing, but on volcanic rock near lava. And storm chasing is when people drive cars directly toward dangerous weather," General Nam added. "Tornadoes, hurricanes, that sort of thing." "You drive toward storms?" an alien asked in horror. "To study them," Dr. Kang said, "and because it's exciting." "What about shark diving?" Captain O suggested. "Swimming with the ocean's top predators without protection." "People swim with predators?" Quindal asked, his voice getting higher. "Sure. Sharks are actually pretty safe if you know what you're doing," General Nam said. "More people are killed by lightning strikes than shark attacks." "How often does lightning strike people?" "A few hundred times per year, just in our country alone," Dr. Kang replied. "Most people survive it, though. Humans are surprisingly hard to kill." Ambassador Quindal looked around the table at the humans who were casually discussing swimming, with predators and being struck by lightning like these were minor inconveniences. "Perhaps," he said carefully, "we should discuss what kind of protection the Galactic Federation can offer your species." "Protection from what?" President Choi asked. Quindal thought about the conversation they had just had. These beings consumed poison for fun, exercised by lifting impossible weights, climbed deadly mountains for sport, and drove toward storms for excitement. They considered being struck by lightning a survivable event and swam with ocean predators as a hobby. "I'm beginning to think," he said slowly, "that you might not need our protection." The humans smiled at him with what he was starting to realize might not be innocence, but something much more dangerous. "That's very kind of you to offer," President Choi said sweetly. Ambassador Quindal reached for his communication device with a shaking hand. The tour of Earth was Ambassador Quindal's idea. He wanted to see more of this planet that seemed so peaceful from space. Yoon, Earth's best cultural guide, was chosen to show the aliens around. She was excited to share her world with visitors from the stars. "Where would you like to go first?" she asked, as they boarded the transport aircraft. "Somewhere typical," Quindal replied. "A place where normal humans live normal lives." "Perfect," Yoon said with a bright smile. "I know just the place. We'll start with Yellowstone National Park. It's one of our most popular family vacation spots." The flight took several hours. During the trip, Yoon pointed out features of Earth through the window. The aliens pressed their faces to the glass, staring down at the planet below. "What are those dark patches?" one alien asked, pointing at storm clouds. "Those are thunder clouds," Yoon explained. "There's probably lightning happening down there right now." "Lightning storms are normal?" Quindal asked. "Oh, yes. We get them almost every day somewhere on the planet," she replied cheerfully. "Sometimes several at once. You can see them better at night. They're quite beautiful." "Don't they damage things?" "Sometimes," Yoon admitted. "But we build things to handle it. Lightning rods, surge protectors, that sort of thing. We learned to work with the weather instead of fighting it." When they landed at Yellowstone, the aliens climbed out of the aircraft carefully. The air smelled of sulfur and pine trees. In the distance, they could hear a rumbling sound. "What is that noise?" an alien asked nervously. "That's Old Faithful," Yunda-un said excitedly. "It's a geyser. Want to see?" They walked along a wooden path toward the sound. Other humans were walking around with cameras and children, looking relaxed and happy. The aliens noticed that many of the humans were wearing only light clothing despite the cool air. "Are your people not cold?" Quindal asked. "This is pretty warm for this time of year," Yunda-un replied. "Last week it was much colder." "How? Much colder?" "Below freezing," she said casually. "But people still come to visit. They just wear heavier coats." They reached the geyser just as it erupted. A column of boiling water shot high into the air with a roar like thunder. The aliens jumped back in terror, but the human tourists just took pictures and clapped. "That water is boiling," Quindal said in shock. "About 90 degrees Celsius, Yunda-un confirmed. "It comes from deep underground, where the rocks are very hot." "There are hot rocks under your feet?" "Well, yes," she said, looking confused by the question. "The Earth's core is molten rock. It's thousands of degrees down there." "You live on top of molten rock?" an alien whispered. "Everyone does," Yunda-un said. "The crust is thick enough that we're safe. Usually." "Usually?" "Sometimes the molten rock comes up through volcanoes," she explained. "But that's pretty rare. We only have about 50 active volcanoes at any time." The alien stared at her with wide eyes. 50 active volcanoes? "Give or take," she said with a shrug. "Some are more active than others. A few erupt every year, but most are quiet for decades." They continued walking through the park. Steam rose from hot springs all around them. The aliens noticed that the water in many pools was bright colors: yellow, orange, green, blue. "Why is the water different colors?" Quindal asked. "Those are bacteria and minerals," Yunda-un explained. "Different types of life that can survive in very hot water. Some of those springs are hot enough to cook food." "Life exists in boiling water?" an alien asked faintly. "Oh yes, life on Earth is very adaptable," she said proudly. "We have organisms that live in boiling water, freezing ice, acid pools, and places with no oxygen at all." As they walked, storm clouds began forming overhead. Thunder rumbled in the distance. "Should we seek shelter?" Quindal asked, looking up nervously. "From a little thunder?" Yunda-un laughed. "This looks like a mild storm. We'll be fine." The first raindrops began to fall. Then the wind picked up. Lightning flashed across the sky, followed by crashes of thunder that made the aliens cower. "This is mild?" Quindal shouted over the noise. "Sure," Yunda-un replied, pulling out an umbrella. "The lightning is staying pretty high up. If it was really dangerous, the park rangers would tell everyone to go inside." The other human tourists continued walking around, some taking pictures of the lightning. Children laughed and played in the rain. The aliens watched in amazement as humans treated the violent storm like it was barely worth noticing. After the storm passed, they drove to the coast. Yunda-un wanted to show them the ocean. They stood on a cliff overlooking the Pacific, watching waves crash against the rocks below. "How deep is this water?" an alien asked. "The ocean averages about 4 kilometers deep," Yunda-un said. "The deepest parts are over 11 kilometers down." "What lives in such depths?" "All sorts of creatures," she replied happily. "Giant squids, deep-sea fish, organisms that live around underwater volcanoes." "Underwater volcanoes?" "Sure. Most of Earth's volcanic activity happens under the oceans, she explained. The seafloor is constantly being created and destroyed by moving tectonic plates. Your planet's surface moves about as fast as your fingernails grow, she said, sometimes faster during earthquakes. Earthquakes? Quindal asked weakly. When the rock layers slip against each other, Yoon explained. We get thousands of small ones every day. Most people don't even notice them. And large ones? Those happen less often, but they can be pretty exciting, she admitted. Buildings sway, things fall off shelves. We design our cities to handle it. They watched surfers riding the waves below. The humans were standing on boards, being carried by the moving water at high speed. Those people are riding the violent water, an alien observed. That's surfing, Yoon said. It's a popular sport. Some people travel around the world looking for bigger waves. Bigger waves? Some waves can be 20 meters tall, she said with enthusiasm. Riding those takes real skill. 20 meters of moving water doesn't kill them? Well, it can be dangerous, she admitted. But surfers are good swimmers. Most of them are fine. That evening, they sat on a beach watching the sunset. Yoon pointed out constellations as stars appeared in the darkening sky. That bright object is Venus, she said, pointing at a bright point of light. It's our closest planetary neighbor. Could humans live there? Quindal asked. Oh, no, she laughed. The surface temperature is over 400 degrees. The atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide, and it rains sulfuric acid. Acid rain? Just on Venus, she assured him. Here on Earth, we only get acid rain from pollution, and we've mostly fixed that problem. You had acid rain on Earth? An alien asked in horror. For a while, she said casually. But humans are good at solving environmental problems once we put our minds to it. As they prepared to return to the hotel, Dr. Lim Woo-jin arrived. He was a seismologist who had been called in to brief the aliens about Earth's geological activity. Sorry I'm late, he said cheerfully. There was a small earthquake near Los Angeles, just magnitude 4.2, nothing serious. Was anyone hurt? Quindal asked with concern. Oh, no, Dr. Lim replied. We barely felt it. People in California are used to earthquakes. They happen all the time. All the time? Several times per day, Dr. Lim confirmed. Most are too small to notice. The big ones only happen every few years. And people live there anyway? Millions of people, Dr. Lim said with a smile. It's a beautiful place. Great weather, nice beaches, excellent food. Ambassador Quindal looked around at the humans who lived on a planet with active volcanoes, moving tectonic plates, daily lightning strikes, boiling water shooting from the ground, and acid rain, and who considered this normal. Your species, he said slowly, lives in conditions that would be classified as a death world by galactic standards. Really? Yoon asked, looking genuinely surprised. But this is just Earth. It's the only planet we know. Quindal realized that these humans had no idea how dangerous their world was because they had never seen anywhere else. To them, this was normal. To him, it was terrifying. Colonel Shin Hyun-woo had been asked to give a simple demonstration of human defensive capabilities. He stood in front of the aliens at a military base, trying to think of something that wouldn't frighten them too much. Behind him, various pieces of equipment were arranged on tables. We understand you want to see how humans protect themselves, he said with a friendly smile. I'll show you some basic examples. Ambassador Quindal and his team sat in comfortable chairs, looking curious. They had been told this would be educational. "Let's start with personal protection," Colonel Shin said, picking up what looked like a simple vest. "This is body armor. It protects against projectile weapons." "Projectile weapons?" Quindale asked. "Guns," Colonel Shin explained. "They fire small metal pieces at high speed." He held up a bullet. "This weighs about 10 grams, but when fired from a rifle, it travels at over 800 meters per second. The aliens stared at the tiny piece of metal. "You throw metal at each other at 800 meters per second?" an alien whispered. "We don't throw it," Colonel Shin corrected. "We use controlled explosions to propel it." "Explosions?" Colonel Shin realized he might need to explain more carefully. "The bullet sits in a cartridge with gunpowder. When you pull the trigger, a small explosion pushes the bullet out of the barrel very fast." "You use explosions as weapons?" "Well, yes," he said, looking confused by their shock. "How else would you make projectiles go fast enough to be effective?" "Major." An Yuri walked over to join them. She was wearing her flight suit and looked like she had just finished flying. "Sorry I'm late," she said to Colonel Shin. "I was doing some practice runs." "What kind of practice?" Quindale asked. "Combat maneuvers," Major An replied. "High-speed turns, diving attacks, evasive patterns, just routine training." "How fast do you fly?" an alien asked nervously. "Today I was going pretty slow," she said modestly. "Only about Mach 2.5. "Mach 2.5? Quindale repeated. 2.5 times the speed of sound, she explained. "On training days, we try not to go too fast. It's hard on the equipment." "How fast do you normally go?" "In combat situations, we can push the aircraft to Mach 4 or higher," Major An said casually. "But that uses a lot of fuel." The aliens looked at each other with growing alarm. "You fly at 4 times the speed of sound?" Quindale asked faintly. "Sometimes faster," she admitted. "The new experimental aircraft can reach Mach 6, but those are still being tested. What happens to your body at such speeds?" "Well, you have to wear a special suit," Major An explained. "The G-forces can be pretty intense. In a tight turn at high speed, you might experience 8 or 9 Gs. 9 times your body weight pressing down on you," an alien gasped. "You get used to it," she said with a shrug. "Pilots train for years to handle high G maneuvers. Most humans can handle 3 or 4 Gs without any problems." Colonel Shin decided to move on to the next demonstration. He walked over to a table covered with various weapons. "These are some of our infantry weapons," he said, picking up an assault rifle. "This is standard equipment for soldiers." "It looks dangerous," Quindale observed. "It's designed to be effective," Colonel Shin agreed. "It can fire 800 rounds per minute at a range of over 500 meters. 800 projectiles per minute? That's selective fire," Colonel Shin explained. "Soldiers can choose to fire single shots for accuracy or full automatic for suppression." He moved to a larger weapon. "This is a squad support weapon. It fires larger bullets at longer range. And this," he said, indicating a tube-shaped device, "is a rocket-propelled grenade launcher." "Rocket-propelled grenades?" an alien asked weakly. "For destroying vehicles or fortified positions," Colonel Shin said matter-of-factly. "The warhead contains high explosives." Admiral John Kyung-ho arrived just then, looking pleased to see the demonstration in progress. "How's it going?" he asked. "Colonel Shin, I'm showing them our basic infantry weapons," Colonel Shin replied. "Basic?" Admiral John laughed. "Wait until they see the heavy equipment." "Heavy equipment?" Quindale asked nervously. "Tanks, artillery, missile systems," Admiral Jian listed cheerfully. "Our main battle tanks can fire shells that penetrate 2 meters of solid steel." 2 meters of steel. The shells are made of depleted uranium, he explained. They're very dense and very hard. When they hit a target at high speed, they can punch through almost anything. You use radioactive materials as weapons? An alien asked in horror. Depleted uranium is only mildly radioactive, Admiral John assured them. It's mostly used for its density and hardness. What about your largest weapons? Quindel asked, though he looked like he didn't really want to know. Admiral Jian and Colonel Shin exchanged glances. Well, Admiral John said carefully, we have nuclear weapons, but those are only used as deterrents. Nuclear weapons? Controlled nuclear fusion or fission reactions, Colonel Shin explained. They create very large explosions. How large? An alien whispered. The largest ones can destroy entire cities, Admiral John admitted. But we don't use those anymore. The smaller tactical nuclear weapons only destroy a few city blocks. Only a few city blocks? Quindel repeated in a strangled voice. We prefer conventional weapons now, Colonel Shin said reassuringly. Much more precise, less collateral damage. What are conventional weapons? An alien asked. Non-nuclear explosives, Admiral John explained. Bombs that use chemical energy instead of nuclear energy. You have multiple types of explosives? Oh, yes, Colonel Shin said enthusiastically. Different explosives for different purposes. TNT, C4, thermite, napalm, each one has specific uses. Major Ahn cleared her throat. Don't forget about the electromagnetic weapons. Electromagnetic weapons? Quindel asked weakly. Railguns, plasma cannons, directed energy weapons, she listed. They use electromagnetic fields to accelerate projectiles or create focused energy beams. You accelerate projectiles with electromagnetic fields? It's more efficient than chemical explosives for some applications, Colonel Shin explained. A railgun can fire a projectile at several kilometers per second. Several kilometers per second? The velocity depends on the power source, Admiral John said. Our ship-based railguns are more powerful than the portable versions. You have ship-based railguns? On our destroyers and cruisers, Admiral John confirmed. For long-range precision strikes. Ambassador Quindel looked around at the humans who were casually discussing weapons that could destroy cities, penetrate meters of steel, and accelerate projectiles to impossible speeds using controlled nuclear reactions and electromagnetic fields. These are your defensive weapons? He asked quietly. These are just the basic ones, Colonel Shin said. We try to keep our really advanced weapons classified. There are more advanced weapons? Well, we can't tell you about those, Admiral, John said with a smile. Military secrets, you understand. What we've shown you represents the minimum level of protection for human soldiers, Major Ahn added helpfully. Every human military unit carries weapons capable of destroying vehicles and buildings. Every unit? Of course, Colonel Shin said, looking surprised by the question. How else would soldiers defend themselves? Ambassador Quindel stared at the collection of weapons that humans considered basic defensive equipment. Each one was capable of destruction beyond anything his peaceful species had ever imagined. When you came to offer us protection, Admiral Jeon said curiously, what exactly were you planning to protect us from? Quindel thought about his people's most advanced weapons, which could barely damage the wall of a building. Then he looked at the humans' basic equipment, which could level entire cities. I think, he said very quietly, we may have misunderstood who needs protection. The humans smiled at him with what he was beginning to realize was the terrifying confidence of apex predators. Dr. Seo Hyo-jin was excited to share her knowledge with visitors from another world. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had spent her career studying life in extreme environments. She had no idea that her normal scientific presentation would terrify the aliens. "Welcome to our biology laboratory," she said cheerfully, as Ambassador Quindal and his team entered the research facility. "I thought you might be interested in learning about life on Earth." The lab was filled with tanks, terrariums, and display cases. Through the glass, strange creatures moved in various environments. The aliens pressed close together, looking nervous. "Let's start with something simple," Dr. Seo said, walking to a large tank filled with water. "These are some of our ocean predators." Inside the tank, several sharks swam in lazy circles. They were beautiful creatures, sleek and powerful, with rows of sharp teeth visible when they opened their mouths. "What are those?" Quindal asked, staring at the sharks. "Great white sharks," Dr. Seo replied proudly. "They're one of our ocean's apex predators. Magnificent animals." "Apex predators?" "The top of the food chain," she explained. "They hunt other large marine animals. These particular sharks can grow up to 6 meters long and weigh over 2 tons. 2 ton. "Predators live in your oceans?" an alien whispered. "Oh, sharks aren't even the biggest ocean predators," Dr. Seo said casually. "Blue whales can weigh over 100 tons, and giant squids can have tentacles 18 meters long." "Tentacles?" Quindal asked faintly. "Arms with suction cups and hooks," she explained. "Giant squids use them to catch prey. They fight with sperm whales in the deep ocean. Sometimes we find whale carcasses with giant sucker marks on them." The aliens stared at the sharks with new horror, realizing these weren't even the most dangerous things in Earth's oceans. "But humans swim in these waters?" an alien asked. "All the time," Dr. Seo confirmed. "Swimming is a popular recreational activity. Some people swim across entire ocean channels for sport." "With the predators?" "Well, shark attacks are actually very rare," she said reassuringly. "You're more likely to be struck by lightning than attacked by a shark." The aliens remembered the conversation about lightning strikes and looked even more worried. Dr. Seo moved to the next display. "These are some of our terrestrial predators." The case contained what looked like a large cat, but bigger and more muscular than any cat the aliens had ever imagined. "This is a model of a tiger," Dr. Seo explained. "They can weigh over 300 kilograms and run 60 kilometers per hour. Their bite force is strong enough to crush bones." "These live on your planet's surface?" Quindal asked. "In certain regions," she confirmed, "along with lions, bears, wolves, and leopards. Most continents have large predators." "Bears?" She showed them a picture of a grizzly bear standing on its hind legs. "Brown bears can weigh over 600 kilograms and stand 3 meters tall. They're omnivores, so they eat both plants and meat." 600 kilograms? An alien gasped. "Polar bears are even bigger," Dr. Seo added helpfully. "They live in the Arctic and primarily hunt seals." She moved to another section. "These are some of our smaller predators." The display showed various snakes, spiders, and insects. To the aliens, they looked like nightmare creatures. "This is a black mamba," Dr. Seo said, pointing to a sleek snake. "Its venom can kill a human in 20 minutes. And this is a funnel web spider. Its bite is also potentially fatal." "Venomous creatures?" Quindal asked weakly. "Thousands of species," Dr. Seo confirmed. "Snakes, spiders, scorpions, jellyfish, cone snails, blue-ringed octopi. Nature evolved," many different ways to deliver toxins. And humans live among all these creatures? We've learned to coexist, she said with a smile. Most venomous animals only attack when threatened. Plus, we've developed anti-venoms for the dangerous ones. She led them to a section about plants. The aliens hoped this would be less frightening. Earth's plant life is equally fascinating, Dr. Co began. This is a Venus flytrap. It's carnivorous. Carnivorous plants? An alien asked in horror. Plants that eat meat, she confirmed. The Venus flytrap catches insects with modified leaves that snap shut. Other carnivorous plants use different methods. She showed them pictures of pitcher plants, sundews, and bladderworts. Plants that actively hunt prey, she explained cheerfully. Some can even catch small animals like frogs and mice. Your plants eat animals? Only certain species, Dr. Co assured them. Most plants are photosynthetic. They get energy from sunlight. But some evolved to supplement their nutrition by digesting organisms. The next section covered extremophiles, organisms that lived in environments that should be impossible for life. These bacteria live in boiling hot springs, Dr. Co explained, showing them microscopic images. They thrive in temperatures that would cook most life forms. Life exists in boiling water and in freezing conditions, highly acidic environments, intense radiation, and crushing pressure, she continued enthusiastically. We've found life forms that eat sulfur, breathe methane, and survive in the vacuum of space. Vacuum of space, Quindal repeated weakly. Tardigrades, she said proudly. Microscopic animals that can survive extreme dehydration, radiation, and the vacuum of space for years. She showed them more examples. Bacteria that lived in acid mine drainage, organisms that thrived in Antarctic ice, microbes that survived in nuclear reactors. Life on Earth is incredibly resilient, Dr. Co concluded. It adapts to almost any environment. The aliens listened in growing horror as she described a world where life not only survived in conditions that would kill most galactic species, but actually thrived and evolved into forms more dangerous than anything they had imagined. What about human diseases? Quindal asked. Surely your species faces threats from microscopic life. Oh yes, Dr. Co said cheerfully. Humans have dealt with countless pathogens throughout history. Plague, smallpox, influenza, tuberculosis, malaria. How do you survive? Immune systems, she explained. Human immune systems are quite robust. They can adapt to fight new diseases and remember old ones. Plus, we've developed vaccines and medicines. But surely some diseases are too dangerous? Well, we've had some challenging ones, she admitted. The 1918 flu pandemic killed millions of people. But it also made the survivors' immune systems stronger. Millions died, and you consider that a learning experience? An alien asked in disbelief. Humans are very good at surviving catastrophes, Dr. Co said matter-of-factly. Plagues, natural disasters, ice ages, volcanic eruptions. Each challenge makes the species more resilient. She showed them a final video, time-lapse footage of various Earth environments. Volcanoes erupting, hurricanes forming, earthquakes shaking cities, floods covering vast areas, and through it all, humans continuing their daily lives. This is just a normal year on Earth, she explained as the video showed lightning strikes, tornadoes, forest fires, and avalanches. Humans have learned to live with all of this. Ambassador Quindal watched humans surfing massive waves, climbing active volcanoes, and walking through forests full of predators. Children played in environments that would be classified as hazardous zones on any civilized world. Your species, he said slowly, considers this a normal environment for raising offspring. Children are quite adaptable, Dr. Seo said with a smile. They learn early how to identify dangerous plants, avoid venomous animals, and survive in extreme weather. Children survive this? Human children are actually quite tough, she said proudly. They can fall from considerable heights, survive minor injuries that would be fatal to most species, and adapt to almost any climate. And this makes them stronger? Absolutely, Dr. Seo confirmed. Exposure to challenges during development creates resilient adults. It's how evolution works. Ambassador Quindal looked around the laboratory at displays showing creatures that could kill with venom, plants that ate animals, bacteria that lived in boiling acid, and humans who considered all of this perfectly normal. Dr. Seo, he said, quietly, what would you consider a dangerous planet? She thought for a moment. I suppose a world where the air was unbreathable, the water was toxic, the temperature extremes were too severe for human survival, and there were no food sources we could digest. That describes most planets in the galaxy, Quindal said weakly. Really? Dr. Seo looked surprised. Then I guess Earth is pretty special. The aliens stared at her, finally understanding that they hadn't discovered a weak species in need of protection. They had found the survivors of the most dangerous planet in the galaxy, and those survivors called it home. The emergency communication session began at midnight. Ambassador Quindal stood in his ship's communication chamber, speaking urgently to the Galactic Federation Council. His face appeared on screens across dozens of worlds, but he looked nothing, like the confident diplomat who had arrived at Earth just days before. Council members, he began, his voice shaking slightly, I must report that our initial assessment of the third planet was completely incorrect. Commander Bae Sung-min sat in Earth's intelligence center, listening to the intercepted transmission. The alien communication systems were more advanced than Earth's technology, but humans had always been good at finding ways to listen to conversations they weren't supposed to hear. What do you mean, incorrect? Came a voice from the Federation Council. The translation software identified the speaker as Counselor Vexhan from the Central Worlds. The species we came to protect, Quindal said slowly, does not need protection. In fact, I believe they may be the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Silence filled the communication channel. Commander Bae leaned forward, fascinated by what he was hearing. Explain, commanded another voice. Identified as High Counselor. Zephyra, they live on a death world, Quindal began. A planet with active volcanism, seismic activity, extreme weather patterns, and radiation exposure that would kill most galactic species in hours. That's impossible, Counselor Vexhan replied. No intelligent life can evolve on a death world. They didn't just evolve on it, Quindal said desperately. They thrive on it. They consider volcanic eruptions and lightning storms to be minor inconveniences. They swim in oceans filled with predators larger than our spacecraft. They climb mountains in sub-zero temperatures for entertainment. Captain Jong Ha-na entered the intelligence center just as Quindal continued his report. What's happening? She whispered to Commander Bae. The aliens are reporting back to their government, he whispered back. It's not going well for them. Furthermore, Quindal continued, their military capabilities are beyond anything in our database. They have weapons that use controlled nuclear fusion, electromagnetic acceleration, and chemical explosives. Their soldiers routinely carry firepower equivalent to our heavy artillery. Nuclear weapons? High Counselor Zephyra asked in alarm. They have thousands of them, Quindal confirmed. And they consider them obsolete technology. Their conventional weapons are precise enough to destroy individual buildings from hundreds of kilometers away. This is clearly an exaggeration, Counselor Vexhan said, but his voice sounded uncertain. I have video recordings, Quindal replied. I watched their pilots fly aircraft at 4 times the speed of sound while pulling 9 times their body weight in gravitational force. I watched their soldiers demonstrate weapons that could penetrate 2 meters of solid steel. Commander Bay and Captain Zhong exchanged glances. They were both proud of human military technology, but hearing it described by terrified aliens made it sound much more impressive. Even their civilian activities would be classified as extreme military training on most worlds, Quindal continued. They jump out of aircraft for recreation. They dive to crushing ocean depths. They race vehicles at speeds that would liquefy most species. What are you recommending? High Counselor Zephyra asked. There was a long pause before Quindal answered. I recommend we invoke Protocol Omega. The communication channel went completely silent. Commander Bay frowned and began searching through the human database for any reference to Protocol Omega. Protocol Omega? Captain Zhong asked quietly. I'm looking it up, Commander Bay replied, his fingers flying over the keyboard. Got it. Protocol Omega is the Galactic Federation's response to discovering a deathworlder species. What does that mean? Commander Bay read from the screen. It's a set of diplomatic protocols for dealing with species that evolved on planets too dangerous for normal galactic life. According to this, deathworlder species are automatically granted special status in the Federation. Special status? Protected status, advanced membership privileges, and... Commander Bay paused, reading more carefully. And automatic qualification for galactic peacekeeping forces. Captain Jiang stared at him. They want us to be galactic peacekeepers? The alien communication continued. High Counselor Zephyra was speaking. Are you certain these beings qualify as deathworlders? They consume poison for pleasure, Quindal replied. They live on a planet where the very air contains toxins that would kill most species. They breed in conditions that would be classified as a biological weapons laboratory. Their children play games that would be considered military training exercises. What kind of games? Counselor Vexhan asked weakly. They chase spherical objects while running into each other at high speed, Quindal said. They swing on ropes over dangerous heights. They slide down mountains on pieces of wood while avoiding obstacles at lethal speeds. Sports, Captain Zhong said quietly. He's describing human sports. They call it recreation, Quindal continued. What they consider entertainment would be torture to most galactic species. Another voice joined the conversation, identified as Admiral Corthan of the Federation Fleet. What about their space capabilities? They have orbital defense stations and interplanetary vessels, Quindal reported. Their space technology is primitive but functional. However, their weapons technology is far more advanced than their propulsion systems, meaning they can't travel between stars yet, but when they can, they'll be armed with weapons capable of destroying planets. Commander Bay turned to Captain Zhong. Should we be offended that he called our space technology primitive? I think we have bigger concerns, she replied, pointing at the screen where more alien officials were joining the conversation. I'm calling an emergency session, High Counselor Zephyra announced. All council members are to report immediately. We need to discuss how to handle first contact with a deathworlder species. There's something else, Quindal said hesitantly. What? They don't realize how dangerous they are, he said quietly. They think their planet is normal. They think their abilities are average. They have no concept that other species couldn't survive in their environment. They're not aggressive? They're incredibly peaceful considering their capabilities, Quindale admitted. But they're also completely unaware of their own power. When I mentioned Galactic Protection Services, they politely listened like they were humoring a child. A species that could destroy our fleets thinks we're children? Admiral Korthun asked. I don't think they realize they could destroy our fleets, Quindale said. They seem to think all species are like them. The communication ended abruptly as the aliens went into emergency session. Commander Bay and Captain Zhong sat in the Quiet Intelligence Center, processing what they had heard. So, Captain Zhong said finally, we're apparently the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and we didn't know it. And they want to make us galactic peacekeepers, Commander Bay added. Should we tell people? Commander Bay thought about it. Let's start with the President. She's going to want to know that the aliens are more afraid of us than we are of them, and that we're about to become the galaxy's police force? That too. As they prepared their report, both officers couldn't help but smile. Humanity had just gone from being offered protection to being asked to protect everyone else in the galaxy. It was, they both agreed, a significant improvement in their situation. 6 months later, Ambassador Park Ji-hwan stood at the podium in the Galactic Federation Council chambers. The massive room was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds, all of them watching the human with a mixture of curiosity and barely concealed nervousness. The chamber itself was beautiful, with flowing architectural lines and soft lighting designed to be peaceful and calming. To human eyes, it looked almost fragile, like it was built for beings who had never experienced conflict or danger. Honored members of the Galactic Federation, Ambassador Park began, speaking clearly into the translation device. It is my privilege to address you today as Earth's first representative to this council. A murmur went through the assembled aliens. Most had never seen a human in person before, and Park's calm confidence was unsettling to beings who had been told that humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. 6 months ago, your diplomatic mission arrived at Earth believing they were making contact with a primitive species in need of protection, Park continued. I want to thank Ambassador Quindale and his team for their peaceful approach and their patience, as we all learned some important truths about each other. In the front row, Ambassador Quindale shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He had requested a transfer to a safe desk job on a peaceful world, but the Federation Council had insisted he remain as the primary liaison to humanity. We have learned that Earth is what you classify as a death world, Park said matter-of-factly. We had no previous knowledge of this classification because, to us, Earth is simply home. Several aliens in the audience made small sounds of distress. The concept of an entire species that considered a death world to be home was still difficult for them to process. We have also learned that our defensive capabilities exceed galactic standards, Park continued. This was not intentional. We developed these capabilities because Earth is a challenging environment that required us to become resilient and resourceful. High Counselor Zephyra leaned forward. Ambassador Park, can you help us understand how humanity views its role in the galactic community? Park smiled, and several aliens in the front rows involuntarily moved backward in their seats. They were still learning that human facial expressions were meant to be friendly. Humanity is honored to accept the role of galactic peacekeeping forces, Park replied. We understand that our unique background makes us well-suited for this responsibility. What does this mean in practical terms? Asked Counselor Vexhan from his seat well back from the podium. It means that when there are threats to galactic peace that exceed the capabilities of normal Federation forces, humanity will provide assistance, Park explained. We're currently training our first galactic patrol fleets and establishing protocols for rapid response to emergency situations. Commander Kim Min-ho, who was attending the session as military advisor, stood up when Park gestured to him. Commander, Kim will be leading our first galactic patrol fleet, Park announced. Perhaps he can share some details about our peacekeeping capabilities. Kim Min-ho approached the podium with the easy confidence of someone who had spent his career preparing for dangerous missions. The aliens watched nervously as he activated a holographic display. Our initial peacekeeping fleet consists of 12 vessels, he began. Each ship carries a crew of 50 humans and is equipped with defensive systems appropriate for galactic patrol duties. The holographic display showed sleek ships that looked powerful, but not aggressive. To human eyes, they were standard military vessels. To the aliens, they looked like something that could destroy entire fleets. What kind of defensive systems? Admiral Corthan asked from the back of the chamber. Standard human military equipment, Kim Min-ho replied. Electromagnetic railguns, guided missile systems, energy shields, and basic nuclear deterrents. Basic nuclear deterrents? Admiral Corthan repeated weakly. We're trying to keep the firepower appropriate for peacekeeping missions, Kim Min-ho explained. These ships are actually much less heavily armed than our standard military vessels. A ripple of alarm went through the alien audience. The ships they were seeing were the less heavily armed versions. How do you plan to use these forces? High Counselor Zafara asked. We've identified several areas where galactic peace is threatened, Ambassador Park replied. Pirate activity in the outer systems, territorial disputes between member species, and reports of hostile non-Federation forces in unexplored regions. Pirates have been a problem for centuries, Counselor Vexhan said. Federation forces have been unable to control them. Human forces are experienced in dealing with hostile actors, Kim Min-ho said diplomatically. Our training emphasizes de-escalation when possible, but we're prepared for situations where force is necessary. What he didn't mention was that human military doctrine considered the galactic pirates to be only slightly more threatening than Earth's organized crime syndicates. The briefing materials had been almost amusing to read. Pirates armed with energy weapons that were less powerful than human police equipment. What about first contact situations? Another counselor asked. How will humans handle contact with unknown species? Ambassador Park and Commander Kim exchanged glances. This was a delicate topic. Humanity has extensive experience with cultural diversity, Park replied carefully. Earth has hundreds of different cultures, languages, and belief systems. We've learned to find common ground between very different groups. And if peaceful contact is not possible, Admiral Corthan asked, then we follow standard diplomatic protocols, Kim Min-ho said. Establish safe distances, attempt communication, and call for Federation mediators. But if an unknown species proves hostile, Kim Min-ho's expression became more serious. Then we protect Federation citizens and territory using appropriate force. The aliens in the chamber understood what appropriate force meant when applied by beings who considered nuclear weapons to be basic equipment. There is one more matter, Ambassador Park said, returning to the podium. We've received reports of a species called the Devourers moving toward Federation space. The chamber became completely silent. The Devourers were a legendary threat, a spacefaring species that consumed entire planets and had been moving slowly across the galaxy for millennia. No Federation force had ever successfully engaged them. Our deep space monitors have confirmed their approach, Park continued. They will reach the outer Federation worlds in approximately 18 months. The Devourers have never been stopped, High Counselor Zephyra said quietly. When they appear, worlds are evacuated. That won't be necessary this time, Ambassador Park said confidently. Humanity has reviewed the available data on Devourer technology and tactics. We believe they can be stopped. You believe you can stop the Devourers? Counselor Vexhan asked in disbelief. Our analysis suggests that Devourer ships, while large, are not significantly more advanced than human military technology, Commander Kim replied. They rely on overwhelming force against unprepared opponents. They've never faced organized resistance from a species with comparable weapons. Comparable weapons? Admiral Corthon repeated. The Devourers use plasma-based energy weapons and kinetic bombardment, Kim explained. Human forces have extensive experience defending against both plasma and kinetic weapons. What he didn't mention was that extensive experience came from fighting each other. Human military technology had been developed specifically to overcome human defenses, which meant it was far more sophisticated than anything needed to fight species that had never experienced real warfare. When the Devourers arrive, Ambassador, Park concluded, they will discover that the galaxy is no longer defenseless. They will face the combined forces of the Federation, led by a species that has spent its entire evolutionary history learning to survive in impossible conditions. The chamber erupted in discussion as aliens debated whether humans could really stop a threat that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. Ambassador Park waited patiently for order to be restored. The vote to formally accept humanity as galactic peacekeepers will be held tomorrow, High Counselor Zephyra announced. Are there any final questions for the human delegation? An alien from one of the outer worlds stood up. Ambassador Park, what assurance can you give us that humanity will not become a threat to peaceful Federation worlds? Ambassador Park considered the question carefully. It was the concern that had been whispered in corridors and private meetings since humanity's capabilities had become known. That's a fair question, he replied. I can offer you the same assurance that Earth's nations give each other, that we prefer cooperation to conflict, but we're prepared to defend ourselves and our allies if necessary. But your species is so much more powerful than ours, the alien continued. How do we know you won't decide to conquer rather than protect? Park smiled, and this time the aliens didn't flinch away. They were slowly learning that human smiles were usually friendly. Because conquest would be boring, he said simply. Humans are explorers and builders. We're interested in learning about new worlds, new cultures, new technologies. Ruling over frightened subjects would just get